A very pleasant good morning. One more time. A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, at magandang gabi. Welcome to Crossfire, together with the maestro, Paglinawan, and of course, our genius of the day and every day, Valdes. Following after our Sir Butch Valdes, of course, we miss him so much, and we do our best as far as the program is concerned to at least approximate a little of his mind and his thoughts, especially now when the world is swirling around us. Well, welcome to Crossfire, and I'm Rita Gadi. And the only reason I'm opening the show and perhaps appearing as I'm hosting it is because if you put their ages all together, even when Sir Butch was still alive, I'm still the oldest of them all. Why is this so? Well, we go back all the way to 1965 when the senior Marcos was running for the presidency. So you can imagine, you will ask, how old was I then? Well, I was already covering his campaign. So old enough to read and write, to keep a diary, to write down all the people that he has met throughout the provinces that he has visited, and of course, the ideas that he had at that early stage before he even was president. That was the senior Marcos. Now we are approaching, oh no, not approaching, we're already a couple of days after the 1 year anniversary of Ferdinand from Valdes Marcos Jr. And that's the title of our program on Crossfire, 1 Junior Year.
Right.
Hopefully, we could get to a senior level because junior yung parang third year lang yun, ano, di ba? But anyway, junior also refers to if you've got the same name as your father, kaya junior ka, etc. Whatever it is, this is the 1 junior year. And we're not trying to analyze and we don't intend to assess, but we're just gonna talk of what has happened to the country and to our president in this past year. Ado, you had a column, and one of the titles of one of your columns was, just recently, "Is our president sleepwalking?"
Yes, there are myriad, there are many issues that are bugging the nation, and I would like to start with the domestic issues. Running them one by one, food security, and we have been challenged in the issues of sugar, rice, and onions, also fisheries, and we are looking as to what's happening with irrigation and farm increments. But up to now, this administration has not appointed a full-time secretary to head this department. And he is thinking, at least in his speeches, he has announced that he's looking into the water issue. And so water supply is also one of the yellow flag areas. But in the red flag areas would be energy, the prices at the pump, the prices of gasoline and diesel, and the monthly electric bill, which you and I pay. Beyond that, related to energy, is possibly what kind of production and manufacturing is being undertaken. And when you talk about production and manufacturing, you venture into trade, where the picture is not very encouraging. And in terms of people, tourism, all right? Because the Duterte administration established a clear mark in tourism, pitting the Koreans, the South Koreans and the Chinese, into a tourism figure that almost reached 4 million, one half of the output in tourism are only because of 2 nationalities. But then again, whether it's trade, whether it's production, energy, or whatever, we are challenged by the rate of inflation that the COVID pandemic has left us. And so where do we go from here? The President says we look forward to foreign investments. And this is further challenged by, again, the high energy costs and our Filipino ways of doing business. So I am purposely not mentioning foreign policy because I would like to respond to that in the latter part of this discussion.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, Ado, if you listen to the first speech that he delivered, which was his inauguration, and the subsequent speeches after that on several occasions, and also when he addresses businessmen, when he addresses foreign dignitaries, when he addresses foreign fora, you cannot help but say that his eloquence and articulateness and the manner by which he delivers all of this is something that could be quite inspiring. You mentioned all of this listing that you have. It's a long list of concerns, but all of this have been touched upon in many ways, in many words, and in more outstanding manner in many of his speeches. So sometimes they say that when a leader talks a lot, he's either just half man and half words. But here we have a president who's really enraptured us in a way because of the words that he has spoken. And he's touched on this also. But all of this revolve around the speeches that he makes and the reality on the ground. So Itos, here we are trying to find out where we're going with everything that he has spoken of and all the things that he has said.
Right. To answer your first question to Ado and his short answer, I concur with Ado's assessment of 1 year. It's a junior, very short. Yes, I fail to see any coherent strategy moving forward in terms of addressing, like you said, on the ground, the forgotten men and women of society, the people who matter, the laborers, the staff, the folk who comprise 90% of our society. He is not addressing inflation. He is not addressing the price of the gas, price of energy. He is not looking to solve or improve or reconfigure our water needs. There's nothing in his speeches that gives me a clue as to what he's going to do with those things.
Yeah,
it seems to be that he decides to, in terms of addressing that, gusto niya lang tapalan ng, investments ako, punta ako dito, bebenta ko yung Pilipinas, invest kayo dito sa amin and all. So, I don't know if he's planning to outdo the great salesman that we had as a president, which is President Ramos, who was selling everything but the kitchen sink to foreign investors, no? But given that, it forces me to look at his track record in when he was a congressman and a senator. And with that, he was already, he had already said, he already seemed to be moving towards, he believes in the principles of population control. He believes that foreign investment and that the economy and that the Constitution should be revised to include more foreign investment. That's his track record. So knowing that, and now that he's the president, he has never said, for example, that we must rationalize the oil prices. We must bring down inflation, and the only way to bring down inflation is to be able to start a massive agricultural production program and less importing. In fact, he's been in the middle of the road in many of these issues, and that scares me because it seems to be that he is actually not, how do you say, not in tune with the majority of our society. He seems to be while gallivanting with his very illustrious barkada, right? These oligarchs who control all of our industries, controls your lives, energy, food, water, everything else. They control your lives, and yan ang barkada po niya. So since the lockdown, those prices have shot up, and they have not come down since. And there is not a solution that is being proposed to bring them down to even the pre-lockdown levels.
Okay, you spoke about the people, and of course, as you said, the great majority that seem not affected at all by everything that he has already said. We're approximately about 110 million in population. And our number of voters is about 60 plus, 65 million. 31 million voted for him. So that's practically a little over half of those that have chosen him. You mentioned something about his track record in the past. So we don't know whether it is his track record or the name. Either way, it's both, perhaps, that it is the name of Ferdinand Marcos. And of course, the track record that you mentioned when he was congressman, when he was governor, when he was senator, are different now from exactly where he's going. Precisely because some issues which he touched upon when he was in the legislative branch of government are very different from the way he is addressing them now. Well, we'll talk about that a little later. This refers to, of course, our foreign policy and EDCA, etc., which he wanted to question even when he was senator, but which is different altogether. But going back to the basics, sabi nga ni Ado, maraming mga nakalatag sa ating harapan na kailangan na magkaroon na ng mga programa na umaandar na. And as Secretary of Agriculture, that is very basic. Food security, napakahalaga niyan. At tapos ngayon na nga, sinasabi rin niya na sa mga investors sa darating, ang dami ng pledges. The latest yung galing sa Amerika. Pero yun, as Itos was mentioning, kailangan merong support system yung mga investment na yan. Kasi kagaya ng energy, sabi nga ni Ado, paano sila papasok ngayon na ang taas-taas pa ng halaga ng ating enerhiya. At marami pang iba. And it was also mentioned about basic services na hawak din ng mga oligarko. And that is not beneficial to the people, it is beneficial to the pockets of the oligarchs. And we all know that. But nonetheless, is he going to talk about, not just talk about it, is he going to address this in more positive terms? Yan ang ating topic nga, one junior year, Ado. Sa mga kinakailangan, na-mention na ni Ado lahat yan, siguro naman merong umaandar. Kasi nasabi niya na,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I know the laughter is a very good reaction as it is. It's either I'm cracking,
Sana may umaandar.
I'm cracking a joke, or I'm probably doing some kind of a simile or a metaphorical statement, but
Or a prayer.
A hope. Anyway, so ito yung ating one junior year, at sa nakaraang isang taon, sabi ko nga talagang kahanga-hanga naman. Ako na ang magsasabi nito because hindi lang because I studied English or literature is my favorite, pero talagang kahanga-hanga ang kanyang mga salita, ang kanyang mga sinasabi, ang kanyang mga ideya, na kanyang the expression, how he expresses this to us. It really is admirable. And you cannot help but sit back and listen and really and admire the way he has put together so many of the complicated things of our lives in very simple words, but very meaningful as far as they're being delivered. I really wish to hold on to that. Sabi nga na parang, we hate a vacuum, pero hindi lang sana sa salita, ngunit meron din sa gawa, sabi nga. So here we are, one junior year, and with all of the things that he has mentioned and repeated, and even in sa mga international fora, Ado, yun din ang kanyang sinasabi. And lately sa ASEAN, yung mga binanggit niya doon, may pagbabago, like even small and medium scale businesses, pwedeng pasukan yan, and several other things. Kaya doon natin makikita na nabanggit na niya halos lahat yung sinasabi mo, Ado. napag-usapan na niya yan in very articulate and eloquent manner. So, ano pang iniintay natin? Kasi,
Kanina,
Yung gawa, hinihintay na yung gawa. Yung salita, tapos na.
kanina, kumiriling yung telepono, nag-beep, no?
okay.
And baka ako mag-ring. So, minanage ko. Paglabas, 41 minutes ago, he was calling the attention of our government agencies regarding comfort women. Kasi siguro Mother's Day bukas. And so nung winame kung gano'n yung lumabas naman that he was congratulating Bianca Bustamante. Hindi ko maintindihan kung saan, hindi ko naman mabasa na. But eto, nakatirik sa ating mga harapan, mga kabansa, na for the first 3 months ay bumagsak ng 2.7, no? Na naman ang ating trade, no? Ang ating trade deficit ay 2.7. At the third fall this year, bumagsak na naman ng 2.7, no? From 13.08, bumagsak from 14.58. Yun ang shortfall. Nung last year ho, ay nasa 58.32 yan. Ang bagsak niya, at noong 2021, nasa 42.23 billion US dollars. Ngayon, ang akin dito ay simple lang, no? Naghihirap ang ating bayan, mataas ang unemployment numbers, mataas ang inflation, sabi nga natin kanina, during the crisis periods, at yung high level of population growth, nandoon. High and persistent inequality of incomes and assets, rising energy rates, import and export barriers, declining strength of peso versus the US dollar, na ini-insist natin na doon pa rin tayo nakatalaga at nakatutok sa US dollar. And wala pa rito yung natural disasters. At ngayon, we are in the middle of an El Nino phenomenon. At siguro naman nararamdaman nyo kung gaano kainit, no? Kanina, yung isa naming kasama rito, sinasabi sa akin na Kaado, inumin mo kagad ang soft drink na nasa harapan mo dahil yung yelo mabilis matunaw. Mainit talaga po ngayon. At ito ba ay nagtatranslate ng init ng ulo sa sambayanan? Wala pa akong nakikitang masyado except in the circles of the academe and the columnists. Hindi pa yata nahihimasmasan ang sambayan ng Pilipino na kailangan siguro ay magalit na tayo. Magkaroon tayo ng kaunting emosyon dahil napipinto sa ating harapan na ang isang seemingly, nabanggit mo nga, vacuum, no? Seemingly insensitive yata ito sa kapakanan ng sambayan ng Pilipino. So, yan ang nangangamba ako na maging persistent perception ng tao sa kanya at dumating na naman sa isang punto na baka magbago na ang isip tungkol sa eleksyon na naganap.
Pero alam mo, Ado, kasi pagka merong hinanakit o merong nararamdaman na sakit, ang ginagawa nga ng ating mga magulang, ating mga nanay ay kinakausap tayo at sasabihin, tahan na, huwag ka nang umiyak, ganito na. Ang ibig kong sabihin, in the one junior year, lahat itong binanggit mo, napag-usapan na niya yan. He has already not just explained to us, but he has delivered so many speeches covering all of this. Sa bawat biyahe niya, halimbawa, meron siyang nauuwi sa kanyang mga salitang sinasabi na yan, kagaya niya sa productivity ng pagkain. Ito recently lang, sinabi nga niya na now magkakaroon ng parang community of cooperation among the ASEAN countries kasi mahalaga nga yung tungkol sa pagkain. Napag-usapan mo rin yung sinasabi mo nga, yung enerhiya. Ngayon, hindi lang napag-usapan natin ng pagkatagal-tagal itong nuclear bataan plant. Ngayon, nabanggit ng ating Pangulo na magkakaroon ng marami. He also mentioned that there will be several of these little nuclear sources of energy. And yun, nasabi din niya. Kaya, lahat ng binanggit mo, nabanggit na rin niya. Sabi ko nga, not just eloquently and not just with a very good delivery, but also the concern na pinakita niya na lahat yan ay alam niya. Alam niya lahat yung mga problema na yan. Sabi mo nga, sa disaster, ayan, napag-usapan din yan sa mga meeting niya. Kaya, eto, these are the words that our President presents to us. Sabi nga ni Ado, bakit walang nagdumadaing? Bakit Sapagkat yung kanyang salita ay, perhaps it has a calming effect on the people. What do you think, Itos? Perhaps the people are listening. When they listen to him, then they know that he is caring, that he knows what is happening, and that's why he's talking that way. So,
I have no response to that.
no,
It's very,
I think, I think the direction of the discussion.
si Itos, mag-react din sa sinasabi ko.
kasi mahirap for now, sinasabi natin pwede natin bigyan ng honeymoon period si President Marcos. People are still, waiting for the time that he will deliver on what he so eloquently promised. But when the stomach starts to
grind.
to grind and your health declines, they will start to wonder, ano ba talagang gagawin itong presidente natin? Just a comparison, a poor comparison, but a comparison nonetheless. Immediately, and in his capacity as president and in what he is known for, Duterte had an effect on Filipinos nationwide. Immediately, in the first year that he did that, ang dami niya nang nagawa. Yes, it's drugs, and yes, it's peace and order. But yung mga tao sa barangay, they felt it immediately. Now, on our standards, Duterte wasn't the best president because he could have used his popularity to effect more permanent change when it comes to the oligarchs and it comes to the utilities and all of that. But nonetheless, in his first year, and he never traveled, he didn't like to travel, he didn't want to do these things. That's not who he is, whatever his shortcomings are. But what he did affected immediately. Immediately, they felt a change. Immediately. Now, here, they haven't. They're coming off a 2-year lockdown. Many businesses have closed. Prices of goods are still going up. There's no immediate solution. Now, we can offer all the solutions we want here, and we think we in KDP, we have the ideas to immediately effect change. Now, the whole world is going through an upheaval. There's only one section of the world that has seen this and said, look, this has to change. And that's the BRICS. And they decided we're going to have to create a new monetary system away from the bankrupt Western financial petrodollar, of which we are still trying to exchange seats on the Titanic. We are there trying to jockey for the best seats closest to the captain of a sinking ship. While the rest are already going this way, the rest of humanity has decided with their leaders to go this way. Tayo, nakikisama pa tayo. Now, it's hard for us to imagine that our leader has that in mind when he's never mentioned in any of the speeches of any inkling that we recognize the importance of the BRICS nations and therefore we are open to. As simple as that. He seems to be very afraid to mention even that. Now, I don't know if he was able to, cascade the message of the United States during the ASEAN summit, but maybe, ito yung sabi ni Uncle Sam sa atin. Dito daw tayo, ito daw gagawin niya.
No, I think he was very careful because there has been no press release
No
whatsoever.
press release
Exactly.
whatsoever. So,
It's all about the ASEAN actually.
correct. Very, very on the surface level.
Yeah.
Very, very, sorry to say, very propagandish. Okay? No news, no nothing on the details. And I'm not talking just the Philippines, but even within Southeast Asia, these nations have not released anything deeper than the surface level press release given to the journalists,
Yes.
who are, in my opinion, mainstream journalists, are all complicit
Yeah.
in this crime of keeping the real information from people.
That is worrisome, Itos. And you're correct about that. That really is worrisome.
The silence
Wala.
is,
Yeah.
It's disturbing.
worrisome.
It's worrisome.
very
You know
disturbing.
why? Because a recent survey came out, and that should already define for the president the temperature, the social temperature. 51% of Filipinos now consider themselves poor.
Nako.
No, 51%. The reason why there is no violent response is because the Filipino, as far as I'm concerned, has no sense of governance. Governance to them is an abstract notion. Has no sense of constituency democracy. In the U.S., if you're elected, even as a congressman, and you do not perform according to the promises of that election, you are removed on the next election 2 years after. Congressmen in the U.S. serve only for 2 years. Once elected, our attitude is a leader is somebody who is a boss. And we must all genuflect in front of him as he distributes the goods, the blessings of the government to the people. And therefore, for the meantime, there's a waiting period. There is an acquiescence, so to speak. And this we inherited from years of colonial rule, 377 days under the Spanish in a convent, and 40 years under the Americans, under Hollywood, So I sense here that we are really just a bunch of battered constituencies, victim of victimology, that have been desensitized over years of oppression. And it's bad that propaganda has taken over this, because we had 6 years of a responsive government under Duterte, and contrast may not happen during the first year, the contrasting and the comparison, but I feel there is something going on beyond the surface.
Itos was just mentioning that na talagang it's worrisome that we do not have the response coming from the media when there are so many things that could be brought up. Instead, our headlines, if you go over the past week, whether what they're going to do with Teves, they were congratulating Timor-Leste that they did not accept this, and then more headlines regarding
The Lima.
the Lima and all of that, but nothing whatsoever to do with the basic needs that the people have. Now, where is this? Why is it such? Sabi mo nga, we have no idea of governance in the sense that government, well, sino ba nagsabi to? Ask not what the government can do for you. Ask what you can do for the government. Pero hindi tayo ganun eh. There is nothing we are doing for the government except during election time. Now, we are at that particular stage. Nabanggit nga ni Itos na marami nang nangyayari sa labas ng bansa na hindi lang sa nagkakagulo, pero nagkakaroon talaga ng realignment ng mga bansa. Nabanggit yung BRICS, halimbawa. Yan ang Brazil, ang Russia, ang India, ang China, ang South Africa, at several other countries have now joined, 54 of them, na sinasabi nga na umalis na sa paggamit ng US dollar sapagkat yun na nga ang, because of the IMF and the World Bank, naiipit ang mga ekonomiya ng mga bansa.
Yan ang nagiging epekto. Saan nanggagaling yan? Nanggagaling yan mismo IMF na nag-forecast na from 3.4% babagsak ng 2.8 noong start of the year. Ang growth
3.4%
ng mundo.
ng ano?
No? Pero in-adjust nila nitong April.
Ano yung growth of the economy?
Growth
growth,
of the world
okay.
economy. No? Sino na naman to? Sandali lang. Okay. All right. So IMF projected that from last year's 3.4, babagsak ng 2.8. In-adjust nila. Yung last year at saka yung from 2.7 babagsak ng 1.3 ngayong 2023. Ang IMF to. So
Yes.
Western economy ito.
Right.
Western economy. Pronounced growth slowdown for the advanced Western economies. And they cited that the causes creates an uncertainty because of financial sector turmoil, high inflation, ongoing effects of the Ukrainian war, and 3 years of COVID.
They're not even truthful.
So, ngayon, yung kabila ng mundo, yung mini-mention yung
yes.
kaninang BRICS, entirely different.
Yes.
Optimistic sila.
Yes.
At pataas ang projection nila. In fact, Russia made it to the first 10 economies again in 2022.
One of the strongest currencies, the ruble.
Samantalang sila ay may gera sa Ukraine. And the BRICS countries are looking forward, and as you're saying, ang application has gone to, I think, more than 18 countries.
54 na.
54 na.
Kasi sa South Africa, South America, ang dami nang sumama dyan. Kaya yun na nga ang kailangan pag-usapan dyan sapagkat itong mga ito will not be dependent anymore on the US dollar.
And
As a matter of fact, nangyayari na.
Yes, and it's not just the fact that it's not dependent on the US dollar. They are going into heavy manufacturing, production. In other words, something that is not dependent on currency. They are doing deals and doing for energy, for agriculture, infrastructure, chemical, and all of that. Everything that humanity needs to survive. They are creating a new kind of economy, going back to where the Bretton Woods economy was, and going away from what they call the speculative economy. Now, the fact that these countries are doing this and expose yung US dollar, because a currency is only backed by the economic power of that nation. If you don't have manufacturing or you cannot produce, what use is that currency except for speculation? So print tayo ng print because we have to keep up with inflation. The less value our peso becomes. Now, the dollar has been, right now, kung sa akin lang, wala nang value po yung US dollar. What are they manufacturing? Nothing. Everything else is on speculation. They're propping it up. That's the dangerous part. But they have, again, nuclear weapons. And they're not afraid to use it.
That's what they're manufacturing, weapons.
Yes. So, no, they're not even manufacturing their own weapons. They import from China even. Okay, so that's the sad part. What happened to the US? Ganun na tayo. So, tayo, in the meantime, and I'm very worried. I'm actually urgently saying this because our leadership, that includes the whole of government, Senate, Congress, and our executive branch led by our president, President Bongbong Marcos, has not indicated any zero clue that they know that this is happening, and therefore they're even thinking of even joining the lifeboats and the new economy, the future. They instead seem to be relegating to our country to a culture of death and the dying, which is on the Titanic, and we will go down with the ship regardless. Now, they can have their own bunkers kasi mga oligarko naman yan, di ba? Meron silang pagtataguan. Paano yung mga tao? Right? So this is why the urgent need, and I don't, I get it that it's a honeymoon period. Wala na tayong oras para sa ganyan. Again, he is voted by 31 million. Not to get investments. He is voted by 31 million to put us back on track. And I would submit that Marcos, the name Marcos, they were hoping he would go back to his father's policies. That's the only reason he got voted in, not because of him. Now, when he turned against that and he's going the opposite way, Ado's number, 51%, is probably even more than that. The dissatisfaction will come quick, it will come swift, and you won't know what hit you. And that's going to be very scary for the whole country.
There are already disruptive symptoms, like I see that former President Digong is now going into media more often than
correct.
anything. Number two, the Philippine deep state, I call the Philippine deep state, the military community, is now also engaging the Vice President. I think the other day they just announced that she has become the co-vice chairman of the NTF-ELCA.
Yeah.
In other words, even the people around him and who are stilting him up are preparing for his doom with a plan B, with Sara Duterte as vice president, as in EDSA DOS, or towards President Digong, with the people power going the way of EDSA Uno,
right,
with President Digong Duterte back again.
Right. That's 1 year. That's just 1 year.
That's just 1 year.
Yeah.
If nothing happens, no. Although I've heard some things that have made my eyes bulge if they were to be completed. Number one is there has been an order in the fisheries sector of reviving more ports, more how do you call this, ice storages, and canning, small production facilities and all that stuff. In other words, port development. And they have been mapping in the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources where these places will be. And I would suggest the right side of the Pacific side of the Philippines, after starting with Aurora down to Davao Oriental, and from Davao Oriental all the way to the Sulu Archipelago, because these are the places where the poorest of the poor in the Philippine populations are. And then I heard just the other day that Leocadio Sebastian, and I would like to congratulate him, has managed to gain about 800 million for the purposes of promoting SRI,
which is
for rice production, which is the system of rice intensification, which is being used in India and 90% of Vietnam, to couple the hybrid production of Henry Bon Leong of the Chinese community.
What's SRI?
System of rice intensification, practiced in India and most of Vietnam. This concerns the use of bio fertilizers, which not only will make a better harvest, but will replenish the soil for future harvests.
So we have there the production for fish and the production for the staple food. Is this already moving? Actually, as you said, it's there. And so what are we worried about?
Well, we're worried about that the president might not know about it.
No, other
the
right.
things are happening
Right.
without his control. Because
This is
he is
not
on
under his
comfort women.
Right, and I
Bianca
the sports.
Bustamante.
Yes. So, but I wanted to emphasize also, it doesn't matter. To me, I wanted to look. You have to look at it this way. I think it doesn't matter if they want to take over government. It doesn't matter if his core group is now shifting, and the former president is more vocal, and the move towards Sarah and all of that. Because if they don't have an answer to the current crisis, if they don't mention the BRICS, if they don't do the same thing, then we're stuck in the same boat with different leadership. Until and unless anybody in our leadership is talking about the BRICS, aside from us here with this internet show called the Crossfire with Rita Gadi and Paglinawan, we're the only ones talking about BRICS. Can you mention any other program talking about BRICS, right?
Ito, what Titos is saying is this country needs a damn radical change in
Correct.
paradigm.
Yes.
That is what we need.
Yes.
And that is what our leaders should be going towards.
Nothing.
Not towards the side of a descending power and lost dreams and 40 years
And war and death and
war
disease
and
and-
Hollywood and
Yes.
whatever. Huh? Let us learn more from Korean telenovelas. Let us rise from our what do you call it? Silence.
Yeah. But
And
we should.
claim our natural place under a new sun that is rising on
Yes.
the Asian side of the
Yeah.
world.
Exactly.
But it's constantly countries. Of course, the paradigm is West and East. But the point is, the way I look at it is just these sovereign countries deciding for them and their people which is better. Yun lang yun eh. Whether you're on the West, there are countries that have said we will join the BRICS. Hindi lang kami makagalaw ngayon kasi nakahawak kami sa leeg ng iba. Pero sama kami dyan. Those countries are not limited to East and West. Many countries and many groups within those countries and organizations are joining and say, let's all join the BRICS. Not because it is the savior. It's because they demonstrate an understanding of what a world system should be. And they're willing to move towards this. Sama na tayo doon. And the US should join the BRICS. They won't under this incompetent leadership that they have now. But with a probably new leadership under Trump later on, BRICS yan. He will cause it, and he will. But we have to join that. We cannot be sitting on our and pretending that everything is fine and let's socialize and let's wear nice clothes and whatever
As
have you.
Edith was saying,
It's frustrating.
this is Crossfire, and we're talking about BRICS as though it is a new topic. But in fairness to our late Sir Butch Valdes, my goodness, for the past 2 or 3 years, he has already been talking about BRICS. As
Yes.
a matter of fact, there have been so many programs already where this was being expounded. We are talking about this now because that is where these countries are, and these are big countries.
Yes.
You have, my goodness, Brazil,
Oh,
yeah, Russia.
more than half the world's population.
And what happens is, when these countries started with their idea of economic progress, the United States of America has started putting sanctions against them.
Right.
And what happened was like what they did in Russia, but regardless of those sanctions, Russia's ruble is still one of the strongest now. If we go back to how this began also sometime 12, 14 years ago in Davos, when President Xi Jinping announced the One Belt, One Road as the new Silk Route, what was that? Wag na tayong maggera. Magnegosyo na lang tayo. I'm translating it because that's exactly what he said there. And then, even at the time, there were already at least, I think, about 85 participants during that Davos meeting that registered that they would want to join. And that's already happening. Kung tingnan niyo yung mapa na ginagawa through the initiative of China, nagtatawid na sa mga bansa, siya ang gumagawa ng state-of-the-art railway system. Ang sabi nga, wag nang armas ang bitbitin nito mga tren na ito, kung hindi mga produkto
Right.
ng bawat bansa na titigilan yan. So doon pa nagsimula na yung sinabi na recently, yung gulo sa Ukraine at saka sa Russia na sinasabi, yung gera na yan, sino ba nagsimula niyan? Merong babae dyan. You remember her name? She came here recently and she's
Virginia Nuland.
very dangerous.
Victoria Nuland. Yes.
Exactly.
Victoria.
So, diyan nagsimula din
Yes.
yung gulo dyan
Yep.
sa Ukraine. Hindi ang Russia nagsimula niya. Remember, during the time of Gorbachev, of Russia, of the Russian Federation, 13 bansa na ang kanilang pinakawalan para sa demokrasyang gusto nilang tanggapin, and Ukraine is one of them. So bakit ngayon sasabihin naman ng Amerika at ng Western media, na sabi nga ni Itos, bakit gusto kunin ng Russia ulit ang Ukraine? Hindi po totoo yan. So here we are at this stage. Panoorin natin at pakinggan yung mga nangyayari na yan.
Alam mo, Rita, bago ko nakita yung Belt and Road Initiative na yan. Of course, that's only a revival of the 1400s old Silk Road and the maritime component of China. Nung ako'y nasa US, nakakita ako ng, I don't know exactly the name, but it combines the transatlantic and the trans-Pacific, and there is a railway that goes all the way to Canada, and from Canada down to the US and down to South America, and towards the left, the whole of Russia, Siberia, down to China, and all across to Europe, and also down to the networks covered by Europe. And a certain LaRouche.
Yes.
Anong tawag doon? Ito, Trans-Siberian, whatever.
Yeah, Trans-Siberian Railway.
Railway
Exactly.
system. Sa plano po, yan po ay nadat ng China.
Yes.
No, with Chinese characteristics. And that's why they're developing
The new
railway
Silk Road,
systems left and right, no? Dahil sa plano po ng China for peace and development of the world, kasama ang Estados Unidos.
Yep.
Pero sa plano ng Estados Unidos, siya lang ang kasama.
Gera.
Gera. Yan po ang problema eh. At mukhang may mga elemento dito sa ating lipunan na hindi naiintindihan kung bakit ang gera-gera, ang EDSA, ang BFA, MDT, mga tratado na obsolete na dahil hindi na huuso gera na yun eh.
It does not benefit us.
Nandiyan pa rin sila at bakit sila mag-aarmas? Ganoong wala naman tayong kaaway. Ay hindi nila naiintindihan na ang importante po, numero 1, ay food on the table.
Economic.
And the needs of majority of our people.
Recently lamang nagkaroon ng meeting si President Xi Jinping at si Vladimir Putin, at silang dalawa nag-issue ng joint statement para sa mundo.
Yes.
Walang nagsalita niyan. Walang nagkwento niyan. Dito lang namin pinag-usapan yan, yung statement nila. Anong sinabi nila? Peace. Mag-negosyo na lang tayo. Let us try to help each other so that we can achieve peace. Wala silang pinag-usapan ng sinasabi ngayon sa American media kung gaano kalalaki mga armas nila, kung gaano yung kanilang mga lahat ng kanilang mga aircraft carriers at lahat. Ngayon, ang Japan, meron daw na invento na invisible ship. Bakit yun ang pinag-uusapan? Bakit hindi kung paano tayo makakapaghanap buhay? Yan ang mahalaga. Kaya yan din ang pinag-usapan sa ASEAN. Yung pinuntahan ng ating presidente, yun din ang kanilang pinag-usapan, yung mga maliliit na bagay kung saan pwede maghanap buhay. Maganda yon na napag-usapan na yon. Ngunit, sabi nga ni Ado at sabi nga ni Itos, balikan natin ang nangyayari dito sa ating bansa kung gumagalaw na ba yung paputungo sa sinasabi natin na pag-unlad ng bawat Pilipino. Yun ang mahalaga doon.
Huwag na tayong tumingin sa China. Huwag na tayong tumingin sa Russian success despite the Ukrainian war. Ang presidente ngayon ng ASEAN ay si Widodo ng Indonesia. And for the past 14 years, quietly, Indonesia has been following and dovetailing the progress of China. At alam nyo ba mga kabansa, number 10 na kaagad-agad. In 14 years, ang Indonesia in the field of world manufacturing. Tayo, anong ating pinoproduce? Yung mangga, yung pineapple, yung durian, yung banana, galing po sa lupa yan eh. Hindi naman yan manufactured goods natin.
I will invoke the spirit of my father,
Yes.
who I loved very much and respected very much. He will say, "Get rid of Ben Diokno." The first thing you should do is get rid. He is a traitor to the country. He is not there for development. He is not trying to help the country. He is advising the president.
At wala ho siyang ginagawa ngayon, kundi masahihin lamang ang mga numero na sinusubitin niya sa Malacanang.
Sa media, tawag dyan salsal.
Yes, exactly. That's very true. That's the colloquial dirty word we use every time you come out.
At least dito sa internet, walang MTRCB. No? Cannot be banned.
Ano ang sabi na ating mga readers? Baka meron na tayo
Let's
dyan.
go to the texts.
Yan ang ating, ito ho.
Good afternoon. GTNR, I mean Crossfire. What is GTNR?
Sa kabilang ano yan,
Okay.
bakot.
Vincent Hendricks, no to EDCA, no to Senate Bill 1869. Correct, no to Senate Bill 1869. Milestan, good afternoon po. Celia Roderos, Happy Mother's Day po, Madam Rita
Thank you.
Gadi, God bless you po. Palagi ako nanonood. Yan. Bea Dumawa, Happy Mother's Day.
Thank
Boyet
you.
Periabas, good day mga KDP from Subic. Gaano katotoo kaya pala siguro kapalpakan ng Marcos Jr. administration? Si Lisa Smugs pala ang nagpapatakbo ng gobyerno, panay brownout laganap sa smuggling ng DA. Mahal na bilihin, karamihan na appointed ni Lisa, dati nang involved sa corruption. Tama mga si Maharlika na budol ang 31 million. So, don't know if that's true. Dismiss. Lynn Sarko, good afternoon from Bacolod City. Osman Mohammed Zin, good afternoon everyone. Energy shortages is not because of not enough power plants, but it's management. If management problems are not addressed, no matter how many nuclear power plants, the same problems exist. Amparo Consuelo, ano i-report sa susunod na SONA? Eloquence, articulateness, good choice of words.
I have to bow my head.
Yes. Carol Villanueva, good Saturday morning, maestros, and the lovely Miss Rita. Very well said po, Miss Rita. Listening from the USA. Loy Jean Zapanta, good afternoon, Ma'am Rita, Sir Ado, and Sir Itos. OJ Hoxon, hashtag no to EDCA, no to BFA. BRICS is the world. Correct. Cecilia Polis, watching from Italy, good morning po sa inyo. Grazie mille po sa history na malalaman namin. Guys, counter. Yung Maharlika Fund daw, ipapasa na. Paano yun? Di ba nakabase sa dollar yun? Ay, nako po, anyari sa Pinas. Exactly. Joselito Candido Bederio, magandang araw po sa inyo, mga Rita Kayado. Sir Itos, naliligaw po ang landas si Marcos Jr. I think he's listening to the wrong people talaga. Okasa Inada, good afternoon, Ma'am Rita, mga sir. Sila yung makapili at spokesman ng Chingwa, kahit ba no bully ang mangingisa natin na sa West Philippine Sea. Also, he's telling us where China's spokesman.
Yeah.
Chari Miao, mali naman tong si Kuya. Hindi namin basta binoto lang si BBM dahil sa kanyang ama, kundi dahil malaki ang tiwala namin sa kanya. Anti-BBM at anti-US ata si Kuya. Ano naman tingin mo kay BBM? Walang alam. Oh, that's to me. Johnny Ventosa, but he is not doing anything. Speaking and doing the opposite. He is not being transparent. There you go. Alfredo Redina, gagaling nyo ang layo ng analysis nyo. Masyado kayong magagaling. Sabi ni Alfred. Noel Rivera, good evening. Though through his words and actions, I liken BBM to a hostage with a gun to his head. Unfortunately, as you said, by no less than the captain of the Titanic. There you go. June Aplaya, Happy Mother's Day, Ma'am Rita. God bless.
Thank you.
Carlo
Thank you.
Iway, sana may Zoom link sa programa ni Kaado. Brooks Bukayan, now I want to believe that our media is being paid by our First Lady. Na. Tari Miao, Happy Mother's Day, Ma'am Rita. Jorel
Thank you.
Villaflor, Happy Mother's Day. JJ, tapos nakadikit naman tayo sa US. Heist. Algo, good day. Just hope one day, not even in our lifetime, the beloved Philippines, despite its size, can become like an Israel who can defend herself against all bullies. Hope our Filipino culture will level up like Japan, South Korea, and patriotic will is in their lifetime. Bernadette Talatagod, thumbs up. Juron Renz Felonco, basta never trust America. Ayun, magsabi ni Imelda.
Okay, it's been 1 year. Kaya sinasabi nga, hindi na natin pag-uusapan kung may honeymoon period. Sabi nga ni Itos, pag minsan nga 100 days lang yon kung ano man. For at least 365 days, napakinggan natin ang ating Pangulo. Siya ay binoto ng 31 million, halos kalahati ng mga taong bumoboto. Marami pa rin mga pangangailangan na kailangan tuparin at marami pa rin tayong inaasahan. Sabi nga, we always have good expectations, we always have that value or that virtue of hope, which is very important. Ngunit, tayong mga taong nakikinig sa mga iba, kailangan siyasatin natin. And we're talking about these things, and listen to us because many of this that we're talking about have been gathered from way back. Yung sinasabi nga ni Ado from LaRouche, nagkinuha ng People's Republic of China, yung LaRouche, yan ang aming parang encyclopedia dito
Right.
sa Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. And Sir Butch Valdes has really been part of the glossary that we have as far as that is concerned. So, what is important is that we have enough patience and that we can be resilient enough to understand how things change, people change, what they had thought of before, iba na rin ang pag-iisip ngayon, ngunit ang mahalaga, pinag-uusapan. And that is what Crossfire is all about. So I'd like to thank Ado, magkakaroon siya ng programa dito, ang maestro, the teacher, and of course Itos, he continues with his eloquent thinking. And so, thank you very much for having joined us. This is Rita Gadi, and thank you for all of those who sent me a happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.